The War of 3039 is underway, with the Federated Commonwealth invading dozens of planets within the Draconis Combine. As part of Operation Sturmhammer, the 12th Vegan Rangers have landed on the planet of Nashira 2, the former home of the Combine's most elite units, the Genyosha. Their goal is simple: take care of the militia that's stationed here and dig in, waiting for the counterattack. Unfortunately, things haven't quite gone as planned. As part of the operation, the Federated Commonwealth has included their first FedCom RCT unit, who underestimated the militia on the planet and have gotten themselves in a real pickle here in the Ogawa spaceport. It hasn't been quite as easy to take control of as they thought. Now, the 12th Vegan Rangers are led by Colonel Mitch Nelson, who knew that even though the Genyosha were no longer on the planet, that the militia could still be formidable because they had probably been trained by them. So he was prepared, and the 12 Vegan Rangers have had a lot more success. So 9 days after the start of the invasion, they are here to help bail out the unit that's supposed to be assisting them and see if they can help to finally occupy this spaceport. But it's not going to be easy. The Combine has a lot of traps ready. They don't have much in the way of mechs, but they do have a lot in the way of support. They've got VTOLs, they've got infantry, they've got vehicles, they have emplacements. This thing is practically a fortress. Can they do it, or are they going to face even further setbacks? Let's talk about the mission and get started. All right, everyone, welcome to the first mission of my custom BattleTech Aces campaign. I made a couple videos where I was walking through my brainstorming about how to choose a campaign system that I thought would work for this, because what I'm really doing here is just focusing on one specific planet and one series of missions that are part of a very large war. But the scope is relatively small, so I was trying to figure out what would be the best way to do it. And even though I was leaning toward the Hotspots Hinterlands book, which uses the Mercenaries Chaos campaign, I was really glad I started playing my classic campaign in that first, because I realized I don't think that was really what I was looking for this. So I'm just going to go with the regular Chaos campaign because it pushes toward attrition, which is what I think this particular operation is suited for. That's the type of battle it was in the lore, and that's the type of battle I want it to be for this campaign. So let's talk about this mission. I mentioned during the intro that what's happened here basically is that the Federated Commonwealth has launched this war. I don't know if they called it the War of 3039, but they had several operations where they were invading Draconis Combine space, and one of them is Operation Sturmhammer, which involved the 12 Vegan Rangers, a mercenary company, being called in. They're very close with the Federated Commonwealth, specifically the Federated Sons, and they've asked them to assist here on some of the planetary invasions. And so we're here on Nashira 2, and the 12 Vegan Rangers are led by Colonel Mitch Nelson, who is pretty savvy. He's actually been around for quite a while, and he is pretty well known for his performance in the Force Succession War on a couple of other planets, again in the service of the Federated Sons. Now, he knew that the Genyosha used to be, and I hope I'm saying that right, I don't know if it's Genyosha or Genyosha or some other way. Please feel free to correct me. But he knew that they used to have their headquarters here on this planet, but they're not here anymore. But he figured that they had probably trained some of the militia that was left over here. And so he was prepared for a more difficult fight than the Federated Commonwealth thought there would be. Now, as part of the operation, the first FedCom RCT unit is being included here. They're led by Marshal Mira Tran, and she is very dismissive of the Nashiran defenses. She seems to be very overconfident and mostly incompetent, and her unit is fairly new, so she did not take them as seriously, and then they found out that that was the wrong way to approach it, and they've gotten themselves into a lot of trouble here at the spaceport that they're trying to control. Now, she doesn't have any particular issue with the 12 Vegan Rangers being here. She just wants them to not interfere with her unit, but in this case, she does need their help to secure this spaceport, and so that's where we start this mission, with the Draconis Combine controlling the spaceport and defending it, and the 12 Vegan Rangers and the Federated Commonwealth trying to attack and secure it. And for this particular mission, obviously, the Draconis Combine side is the enemy. They will be controlled by the Aces deck. So I have way more units than I thought I would, but they're all being controlled by different Aces decks. And I'm also going to let the Federated Commonwealth units be controlled by Aces decks as well. So I don't know if anybody's tried this before, but I'm going to have allied units that are being controlled by Aces. So that should make this very interesting. But I don't want them to be part of my control. I want them to kind of operate independently, maybe even simulate some of the buffoonery here on the Federated Commonwealth side. So the mission is relatively simple. We are trying to occupy the spaceport, and in order to do that, our primary objective is to destroy all of the militia mechs and vehicles. So there's only one mech here. We have a Panther. There's several vehicles, some ground units, and some VTOLs. So our job is to simply destroy all of them. As a bonus, we have another objective, which is to capture the control tower. So one of these two buildings here is the control tower for the spaceport, and we can attempt to capture that during the mission. So, I mean, obviously we're going to get it when the mission's over if we win, because we would control the spaceport, but we're going to try to take it over while the mission is going on to help us. So what that means is we need to get an infantry unit into whichever building this is. So first, we're going to have to get up here and scan the waypoints to figure out which one is the control tower. And so I just have 2 waypoints here. They've been shuffled and randomized. One of them is the control tower. We need to drop off an infantry. We have a Maxim right here in the center that is carrying infantry. They'll have to get into the building, and they'll have to take out a defending infantry that is also in the building with them. If they do that, and they're still there in the end phase, they will capture the control tower, and if either of these emplacements or both of them are left on the battlefield, they will take control of them, and these will start to attack the Combine units. I think this is going to work. Again, I'm just trying to come up with a cool mission. I thought that sounded pretty fun, but I don't know how likely that is to happen. We're going to see. Now, on the Combine side of it, I'm not really playing as them, and I'm not really dealing too much with their administration, but they do have their own objectives because this is a chaos campaign. Both sides have a set of points. Their goal is to cripple or destroy 50% of the attacking forces, mechs, and vehicles. And we do have force withdrawal in place. So if they're able to get one of the units into force withdrawal, that will count as crippled, and they will have to move their way off the map, but that will also count toward the Combine's objective. And they have a bonus objective, which is to destroy the commander unit, which is this rifleman right here with Bullseye. So he's a good pilot. He's got a skill of 3. Everyone else has a skill of 4 in this mission. So that will be a bonus objective for them. I mentioned we have force withdrawal in play. That'll only be for the attackers. So just for my forces and the Federated Commonwealth, they will be under force withdrawal rules. The Combine will not be. They're not just going to run away and give up the spaceport. We also have a special rule in that I'm borrowing from the Scouring Sands campaign that I'm just calling Transport Shield. And this is just for my units. But basically, as long as there is a mech within 2 inches of the Maxim here, this is our infantry transport, any attacks on the Maxim, which is a destroy objective, will have to be targeted at the mechs instead. If the mechs are destroyed, they can go ahead and target the transport, even if it's inside of the same phase. So if they're able to take out the mechs that are defending it, that's fine. They can go ahead and attack the Maxim next. But our goal is to keep a mech within 2 inches here to absorb that damage until it can make its way here and try to find the control tower. Now, to do that, all of the waypoints here have been shuffled up. These ones are going to be surprises potentially from the Combine side, and then these ones are revealing which is the control tower. It's just going to be standard rules. A unit can scan these within 4 inches. So if they get within 4 inches here, they can go ahead and scan them. That will be done during the combat phase. I'm not doing anything like they can't attack when they're scanning. They're able to scan and attack. It's all good. And for these ones, we're using 4 inches, but they don't have to scan these waypoints. If they get within 4 inches, they have to stop. We reveal the waypoint. We'll see what happens, and then the play will proceed. Okay, I mentioned we have the destroy objective on the Maxim to help prioritize that for the Aces side. The Aces enemy side, sorry, I'm going to be specific here because there's 2 Aces. But we also have one here. Oops, that's on the wrong one there. We also have one on the commander, the rifleman. So that's one of their secondary objectives. So they will certainly want to target that. So again, that'll help bump the priority for the enemy side. We also have a movement objective here in the spaceport. This is kind of my attempt to adjust how the Aces work, because in the past, when I've done the Scouring Sands campaign, whenever the Aces had to defend something, I found that it was a little bit too easy to lure them out of what they're defending and then swoop in and take it. So my attempt to prevent that is to make sure that all of these units here stay within a certain distance of the movement objective that's right in the middle of the spaceport. Probably going to put it right about there. And that way they don't just give up the defense. So I can't lure them out this way with a unit I know they want to attack and then swoop in with the other side. They're going to stay in there at least to some degree and make sure they're actually defending that spaceport. All right, I actually scooched that movement objective back a little bit. But the way I wrote it up was that the units have to stay within 14 inches of that movement objective. So I think that'll keep them on a little bit of a leash so they don't go wander out into here, which doesn't really make any sense for what they're trying to do. I hope it's not too restrictive, but again, this is just me trying to fix something that I saw as a bit of a flaw in the Scouring Sands missions. Okay, and then here's a special one for this particular mission and this particular setting. It's called At Any Cost, and this is only for the Defender here. So all Defender vehicles attempt to charge any attacker unit within range as their first movement instruction. In addition to charge damage, these units detonate explosives for 2 damage to all units within 2 inches and are considered destroyed during the end phase. So the reason I included this was because the Battle of Nashira had a lot of kamikaze units, and that was part of the way that they helped to defend themselves. They would just crash into things. I don't know if they blew up things or not. This is just my spin on it. But I thought that was maybe a cool way to use the aces, which is they're just going to try to charge as their very first thing and try to damage them that way and just be a little more reckless than we would normally see for the aces. So that's going to be a special rule we have in play. I hope that's not going to do too much damage if it happens. We do have a J. Edgar up there, so that can certainly charge something because it has so much movement. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's too much damage. We'll see. And that's really it. The primary objectives are the attacker side needs to destroy all the Defender mechs and ground units, not including the infantry, and the Defender needs to destroy or cripple at least 50% of the attacker units. Other than that, everything else is a bonus. So let me introduce the forces and we'll get started. All right, here's the Nashira Militia. We've got a Panther as the only mech. This is a PNT-9R, just kind of the standard Panther, very iconic Draconis Combine mech. We've got a Demolisher tank. We've got an SRM carrier. We've got a J. Edgar hover tank. And we've got a Galleon light tank. We have 2 Warrior VTOLs. This is the H7 variant. And we have 2 ballistic rifle infantry. The one on the right there is called Olaf, because they just, for some reason, always have snow falling on them. Haha, that was really funny, I know. Okay, anyway, here are the cards. If you're interested, sorry, let me move this one down so you can see the armor and structure on the VTOL. I'm sure they have special abilities that I will forget during the mission, and you guys can remind me of that. The infantry I had to print off from Master Unit List because, I don't know, there's just no cards for it. I know they're in the Aces box, but they're for clan, so I'm just using the standard, very basic foot infantry for the inner sphere. And I think I mentioned this, but all of the units here are going to have a skill of 4 to start. So there are no Draconis Combine units that have anything better than a 4 right now. All right, and here is the combination of the 12th Vegan Rangers in the dark olive drab and the Federated Commonwealth in the red, white, and blue. We have, starting in the back, we have a rifleman with our commander Bullseye. He's going to have a skill of 3. Everything else will have a skill of 4 on this side. Left to right, we have a Dervish 6M. We have a Flea 16. We have a Cicada 2B. We have a Javelin in front here for the Federated Commonwealth side. This is just the 10N with the 2 SRM6s, although that doesn't matter in Alpha Strike. We have 1 point of foot infantry that have lost a couple of soldiers already, these poor guys. A Maxim hover tank, which has the transport ability. That's why I have it, so I can transport the infantry. A Bulldog tank, and then a Centurion CN9A for the Federated Commonwealth side. If you're curious about the cards, there they are. Had to print quite a few of these off because they're different variants, and I don't have the card for them. So I have to use this ugly black and white paper. Ugh, I wish I had those nice cards, but I like doing this because then I get to use a pencil, so I feel like I'm playing classic BattleTech, but also a dry erase marker. I get the best of both worlds. I really need to remember to show the forces before I set them up for the mission, because I always end up doing the mission and the overview, and then I'm like, oh man, I got to move all the forces, and then I got to set them all up again. So one of these days, I'm going to remember to do it in the reverse order. Okay, a couple other little tidbits before I roll up initiative here. The only weird thing is that with those being aces and these being aces, I need to look at the commander card sometimes. So I feel like I probably need to have both decks out. So I'll use the star commander, I guess, or maybe they'll use the star commander and I'll use the mech warrior. I mean, as of right now, I only have 2 decks of commander cards, but I don't think it makes sense for them to both be on the same one. So anyway, I think I'll sort it out that way. I'll just have each use one of the decks. And then the other, well, just the funny thing is that I sometimes say that one of my complaints about the Aces system is it just takes a long time to play it. And so, of course, for my first custom mission that I'm running with it, I have 11 different units for the enemy side. And I think 8 or 9 units on the attacker side for me. So yeah, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, apparently. All right, let's roll up initiative. Let's do this. Okay, here we go. So green is, this time, green is going to be me, and red is going to be the Draconis Combine. Just a straight up initiative roll this time. The Combine wins. I do have the Aces initiative tracker over there. I will do the -2 stuff. So obviously this is my commander. This is their commander in the Panther. If either of those units are destroyed, that'll be a -2 for that side. will also do the same thing here. So they're the red side. They'll get a -2 on the next roll because they won initiative previously. Okay, so that means I have to move first. I got to calculate how many units to move. I will just move my side. I don't know how much interest there is in watching me do the aces for this side. I might do it for things like the VTOLs, which I haven't used before, and maybe people are interested in that. But you let me know. If you like to see all the aces moves because you're trying to learn the game or you're just trying to better understand it, just let me know. I'm more than happy to show them. But sometimes I feel like they just clog up the video too much, and there's a lot of me talking and not a lot of action happening. But I'll try to balance it as best I can, but please let me know what you like. Oh, and real quick on that note, for the VTOLs, I have them on the Striker hover deck. So I figured them acting like hover tanks probably makes the most sense because they can't get cover, they can't go into woods, so the instructions would be very similar to those units. So if you're curious, that's what I'm doing. The infantry are on the ambusher deck. The rest, you can probably figure it out. I just tried to use the roles that those other units have. The first step of movement is done. I decided to let the FedCom units go first. I mean, they are kind of my shield for this mission. I don't really have to care about repairing them or dealing with them after the battle, although they do count for the defender's objective in terms of crippling or destroying 50% of the forces, so I have to be careful I don't get into too much trouble here. But the Centurion went first. It's on the Brawler deck, and it ended up picking the Demolisher as its unit. Nothing had moved, so it just had to use its priority list for that. And it just wanted to be able to target it and get into cover. I tried to get it into the woods, but didn't have enough movement, so I just wrapped it around here and put it behind that hillside for some partial cover. The Javelin also picked up on the Demolisher, and it just wanted to be able to attack it and get into woods. And so I just moved it straight up here, and it's occupying the woods. That green dice there is just a reminder to me that it's in the woods, so no matter who attacks it, they will have to pay that cover penalty. The Demolisher, oddly enough, was the first to go. It had 11 as its priority number. It wanted to pick up on the Javelin because it was within 18 inches. The Centurion was 20, I think, or 21. And it just wanted to get closer to it, and it wants to get cover, but of course vehicles can't get cover. So I first tried to take it out this way to try to get the hill out of the way so it would reduce that partial cover modifier, but I couldn't quite get it out enough to do that because it only has 6 inches movement. So I decided to tuck it next to this building here. It doesn't get cover, but that at least shields it a little bit from some of my units as they start to come out here. That's the first step. Pretty interesting, I thought, as far as the movement goes. I feel like the aces are going to start funneling in this direction to try to take out these moved units. That might let me slip in on the other side of the map. We will see. All right, let's do an aces card together. So I decided to move the Maxim, which I kind of struggled with it because I thought that's kind of an important unit. I don't necessarily want to move it, but I did see a good position for it right here behind this building, which, by the way, sorry I didn't have that on the map to begin with. I thought I got everything, but I forgot that one building. Anyway, the building's there now. So once I put that on there, I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I can hide it behind that building because that'd be a really good hiding spot. So that's what I did. Now the Panther, if we're looking at the card here, it wants, for aggressive behavior, is there a moved unit within 24 inches, which the Maxim is. However, in target selection, it wants to be able to attack that unit. And the Javelin and Centurion are outside of 24. But there's no way for this sniper, the Panther, to actually be able to attack this Maxim. Even if it jumped up on the building, it can't see it, and it doesn't have enough movement to wrap around enough to actually see it. So it can't attack anything, and when that happens, we have to jump over to the next column. So now it's looking for moved units within 30, which it has the Maxim and the Javelin. I don't think the Centurion's in 30. And so then it's going to go for being able to target something on the yellow list. Now, I just got to double check that Centurion, but I highly doubt it's within 30 inches. No, 31. So the only thing it can attack is the Javelin. That's the only unit it would be able to get into range and actually be able to attack when it's done moving. So that's the one we have to go with. So it doesn't want any enemies within 16 inches. It wants to get closer to the target and onto the lowest elevation, which it already is. Occupy woods. This side of the board doesn't really have any woods at all. And when I say it doesn't really, it doesn't. There's no woods. So I think really all it can do is try to move out this way a little bit to see it. And I mean, I think it can see it now. It's just going to have partial cover plus the woods. So I think if it can move enough out this way to eliminate the partial cover, that's where I would move it. All right, I think it does have just enough movement. I moved it out toward the runway there, and that Javelin off in the distance in the woods there. I think I've uncovered enough of it that it will not get a partial cover bonus. So I think that's a good spot for the Panther. All right, step 3 movement is done. I decided to take the Dervish and just jump it into the woods here. Just give it a nice high modifier in case these emplacements go after it.
The SRM carrier went next, and it picked between the Dervish and the Maxim, but it wanted the destroy objective, so it moved out this way. It does have line of sight to it, so that could be unfortunate. We'll see what happens. That gets, I think, 4 damage from medium range. The SRM carrier is way better in Alpha Strike than it is in Classic BattleTech. I mean, all it needs to hit is one of those, and it could do some motive damage to the Maxim. So that's where things stand at the moment. Yeah, maybe should have looked at that card a little better. That is 6 damage from short and medium range. Wow, okay. That thing's going to mess some stuff up here. All right, I don't think that hiding spot for the Maxim was as good as I thought it was. It's starting to get piled on here. They are definitely picking up on the destroy objectives. Usually the aces, I found that they're a little bit hit or miss with that, but so far in this round, they're definitely picking up on it. So I just moved our commander up in the rifleman just to here. It needs to move up and take this SRM carrier out because that thing is nasty. We got to get rid of that thing. So it's just moving up. This has a real low TMM, so at medium range, the rifleman does 3 damage, so I'm hoping it can do some punishment on that, maybe even take it out. If not by that, then the Maxim can do it. The J. Edgar was up here, and surprisingly, it actually would not have been able to do a charge attack on the Javelin or the Centurion. They're too far away. Javelin's just out of it. Plus, I do have kind of a leash on them to stay somewhere within the base, so they're conflicting. The movement objective would come first, so that would be the priority. Anyway, it did find a nice little hidey hole right here where it can get eyes on the Maxim, which is what it wanted, and it can minimize the other unit's ability to see it. So that was a pretty good location for it. Stays within 14 inches of the movement objective. I thought that was a pretty good move there for the aces. Things aren't looking good for the Maxim. We're going to have to just hope its high TMM can help it survive this round. All right, just move the Bulldog up here to get the woods in between it and the SRM carrier. And then the Galleon found kind of the same spot as the J. Edgar and wanted to get eyes on the Maxim. So that Maxim is getting piled on right now. I don't know. Maybe it's enough to distract them. Maybe we won't get the bonus objective, but we can try to distract the units long enough that we can take a lot of them out without too much damage to the other stuff. I am kind of being an idiot, by the way. I did use the rule where if there's a mech within 2 inches of the Maxim, it will absorb any attacks. So I I can protect myself there. I'm getting a little bit depressed here, but I don't need to. I do have protection available. All right, second to last step. So I moved the Cicada right up against the Maxim here, so that way it can protect it. I mean, not like the Cicada has a lot of armor or anything, but I don't know. Anything's better than the Maxim. I definitely want to try to get that control tower. Now, the first VTOL moved, and so if you're not familiar with VTOL movement, basically you spend your movement to raise elevation. So they've both started on the ground. So I used 3 inches of movement to get it 3 levels up. So that would put it above the trees. I mean, you have to use your imagination because this only has a 2-inch stand or pole or peg or whatever they call it. So I used that, and then I used the remaining 15 inches to get it over here. It also wanted the Maxim, so I just kind of moved it around here. I thought I could maybe go here to get the trees in the way. I don't know how that works exactly. I think I'm just going to forget about it because I can't actually see this thing at 3 inches. We're just going to play it like it's over the trees, so unless something's sitting in the trees, it's not shooting through it. Okay, I'll move the last 2 units, and we'll get ready to do some combat. All right, there we go. I brought the flea in here. I got it into depth 1 water, so it will have a little bit of protection. It's also protecting the Maxim. I don't know. These 2 things might not make it out of here. We'll see. And then the other VTOL basically did the same thing, went up 3 levels, and then it had 15 more inches to move. It also wanted the Maxim, so I just moved it in real close to get it in short range. It's hard to really execute the instructions for the VTOLs because they say, get in the fewest lines of sight as possible. Well, everything can see it because it's up in the air, so that's not necessarily possible. I guess I could try to hide it behind something, but with the destroy objective, that's what it wants to get. It kind of has to move out here into the open. Anyway, I'm not going to overthink it. It is what it is. Okay, we are ready to get into combat. Our side's going to go first. I think our priority needs to be this SRM carrier, but that J. Edgar and the Galleon are both probably going to try to charge us on the next round, and that's going to do a lot of damage. You know, I thought everything was going to go that way, but then I stupidly moved that Maxim real early, and now everything funneled over this way. So, all right, let's get in combat and find out what happens. All right, there's Bullseye, tucked away in the woods here by the Oasis, targeting that SRM carrier. Bullseye's thinking, why are we doing this? Why do we have to help these incompetent idiots out? Everything was going just fine for us, and now I'm going to get myself killed. All right, this version of the Rifleman does 3 damage from medium range. Gonna need 7s to hit. That's okay. That's going to be enough to take out its armor. Only has 2 pips of armor, but Sells 3 structure and it doesn't do anything else. And before I forget, I do have to roll a motive hit on the SRM carrier. I always forget after a little while. Even the tracked vehicles have a motive hit, so I need to roll a 9 or higher to change the motive on this vehicle, which has very little movement to begin with. That does nothing.
All right, we got a little party going on here at the Oasis. The Maxim's going to go next. It is going to get the SRM carrier over there in the woods. It's a little hard to see, but it can actually see that thing just underneath the trees there. Going to need an 8 because it has a 4 skill, so it does 2 damage. Let's see if we can do anything to this SRM carrier.
All right, vehicle on vehicle action, 8 for the Maxim at medium range, does 2 damage. Ooh, gets 1 of them. Okay, that's going to be a critical hit. And under the Aces rules, they always get a critical hit. And it's also going to get a motive hit. So the green is going to be the motive. The blue is going to be the critical hit. Okay, the green does nothing. The 9 is a weapon hit. It has 6 damage, so that's not really going to affect it too much.
All right, the Bulldog's up next. It's like, I have tracks. Let me show you how this is done. Also, going to shoot at that SRM carrier. Going to try to take it out. Does 2 damage at medium range. Also is going to need 8s. Come on, Bulldog. You were terrible in my other mission. Let's see if you can do something here. We need 8s. Ooh, got 1. Okay. All right. We're going to use almost all of our units to take this thing out, but that's okay. All right. So that's 1. Again, motive hit with the green, critical hit with the blue. Okay. That's going to be no motive hit and another weapon hit for this vehicle. Now it's going to be down to 4 damage. Wow. All right. The little flea is going to give it a try.
Come on, guys, I'll show you how it's done. I'm going to get the SRM carrier.
Maybe the flea will be our new skulker. All right, going for the SRM carrier. Also going to need 8s. Only does 1 damage, so it needs to make it count. Man, what a mess it is here. All right, 1 damage for medium range. Needs an 8. Come on, flea. No, it didn't do it. All right, Cicada's going to give it a try. Same thing. Needs an 8. Only does 1 damage from medium range. I really don't want to waste the dervish on this. I wanted to use it on the emplacement. Come on. Just roll an 8. Yes, it did it to Cicada. One of the best mechs that the Inner Sphere has ever known. It takes out the SRM carrier. All right, my goal is to take over the control tower and get those emplacements, but just in case that doesn't happen, since the dervish jumped, it can't get very good numbers, so I'm just going to have it attack that emplacement right there and just try to put a couple of pips on it. Just needs a 4. Dervish does 2 damage from medium range, just needs 4s. Gets them both, 2 damage to that heavy emplacement. All right, I probably should have let the Aces go first, but I figured they wouldn't be attacking the same things as me. In any case, this Centurion is going to go after the Demolisher, exactly what it was trying to get from the beginning. The card says go on the red list, which is lowest TMM. Technically, that would be one of the emplacements, but because I can take those over, I'm going to override it and say it just has to go for something other than those 2. That's going to be the Demolisher. All right, Centurion does 3 damage at medium range. That's a pretty good mech. Needs 7s here, 4 for its skill, 1 for the Demolisher's TMM, nothing in the middle between them, and a 2 for medium range. 7s. Like I said, I was hoping that this would maybe show the FedCom's buffoonery, and there you go. Misses everything, also knocks down the emplacement. Not to be outdone, the Javelin is lamenting the stupidity and says, I'll one-up her. I know, I'll go for the VTOLs. That seems like a good idea right now. Let's go for the highest TMM unit on the blue list. Great idea. All right, Javelin's going for this VTOL because it's closer. It's going to need 10s to hit. Great decision here, Aces. Thank you. Hey, it actually got one. It got a critical. This is probably going to be really, really, really bad for this VTOL. You know what? This Javelin pilot is awesome. All right, just like before, except flipping them. The green is the critical, the blue is the motive. Let's see what happens. And VTOL, I believe, gets a +1 on this roll. Maybe it gets a +2. I'm gonna have to double check the Commander's Edition because it's not in the Aces book, but I think it actually gets a +2 to the motive hit. Let's see what happens. All right, blue's the motive. It gets an 8. That won't do anything. Gets a 10 on the critical. I think that's unfortunately just gonna be another weapon hit. All right, I double checked the rules in the Commander's Edition. VTOLs do get a +2 to the motive check. It still is a nothing because it's an 8, so nothing happens there. And the 10 is a weapon hit, so this has no weapon rating anymore. Can't do any damage for the rest of the game. Of course, it still can do damage for this turn. Now that I'm thinking about it, that would technically make it in force withdrawal. I know we're not using that for the Kurita side, but I mean, this thing's effectively destroyed, right? It can't do anything. I don't think they can charge, can they? I don't know. Maybe they can charge.
I'm actually not sure. I guess that would be pretty cool. That would be basically what they would try to do. Just go down to one elevation and crash into a mech. All right, there's the damage on the Combine side. We did take out that SRM carrier, but it took like 5 units to do it. So not super efficient, but it was good to get that thing off the board. Of course, it still gets an attack this round. Heavy emplacement, we did a couple on it from the Dervish. And the Warrior, a miraculous shot from that amazing Javelin pilot. Nails it, takes out the armor, gets a critical hit on the weapon, so that unit can't do any damage after this round. So, I'll take it. I think that's pretty good. All right, the Demolisher is first up on the Combine side. It's got 2 options there, both from the FedComs, but it knows who the incompetent one was. It's going for the Centurion. Does 4 damage from medium range. It's going to get some partial cover, but this could get messy. 4 damage coming in. Going to need 8s to hit that Centurion. Gets a little bit of partial cover. Here we go. Looking good so far. Oh, almost escaped. Okay, 1 damage and a critical hit. 12s are coming out a lot here. Roll it up. Gets a 6. That's a weapon hit on the Centurion. All right, the Panther is up next. Also looking at the 2 FedCom scum over there. And it wants an ally attack by this turn, but its first priority is 24 inches. That's going to be the Javelin. So the Javelin is going to take potentially 2 damage from medium range. Centurion is just outside of medium range. All right, Javelin has a higher TMM and is in the woods. This is going to be a 9er. 2 damage, needs 9s. Gets 1, hits a 10 on the red dice. Okay, it's going to be 1 point to the Javelin, but no critical this time. The SRM carrier is up next. 6 damage coming in. Luckily, this thing is destroyed, so it can't do this again. It actually doesn't want the Maxim, which it originally targeted on, and it is the destroy objective. It just wants something with the lowest armor, and the Cicada and Flea are tied, but the Flea is closer, so it's going to attack that. So there you go. Talk about a waste of firepower. Not only is this going to be a hard thing to hit because it's got the highest modifier with the partial cover from the water, but come on, it's a Flea. Who cares? This is going to be 11s, 4 for the skill of the unit, 7 with the TMM from the Flea, 8 with the partial cover from the water, 9 for the intervening woods, and then 2 for the medium range. So it's 11. Ugh. Sometimes I feel like I should override this stuff, but whatever. Oh, it actually got one. The green dice hit. I shouldn't have used the green ones. Those are my dice. All right. 1 hit to the Flea. All right, we got the party train here. The J. Edgar is going to go for the Maxim. The Cicada is within 2 inches, and it's closer than the Flea, so it is going to go for the Cicada. That's in short range, so it has a chance to hit, but only does 1 damage. Needs a 7 for the J. Edgar. 1 damage. Misses. I checked the Galleon. The Cicada is the only thing within 6 inches, so it's going to attack it as well. Same thing. Going to need a 7. But I double checked the card. It does 2 damage. Needs 7s. Ouch. Gets both of them. I think that's pretty much all the Cicada's armor. Oh, my. All right, the Red Warrior is up next. Nothing's in 6 inches. So it's actually going to go to the yellow list, which wants the most armor. That's going to be the commander. Bullseye over there and the rifleman. All right, this is just going to be a 7 because it's over those trees. Doesn't have them in the way. 1 point of damage on a 7. Misses. All right, the Desert Camo Warrior is up next. It's going out 6 inches. It wants something with no cover and no armor. That's going to be the Cicada. It just lost all of its armor. Going to need a 7 to hit this. All right, here we go. This will be the last thing this unit attacks, unless we do the kamikaze thing, which is sounding like a better idea. Okay, here we go. Misses again. Warriors not doing well. Last but not least, we've got the emplacements. So I can choose these to go in any order. It doesn't really matter. They both want the Bulldog, lowest TMM and lowest armor. So I'm just going to roll them both up. They do have a 5 skill. I just did that because they always get an immobile benefit. So that just drops them down to a 4 like everything else. So that's why I did that. So I think they're just going to have 7s because they are up over the trees looking down on that Bulldog. So they're just going to have 7s to hit. This Bulldog could get messed up here, just like in my other battle. There's the first one. It gets 1. That's going to get a motive hit. Let's see. Nothing. Okay, so 1 pip of damage so far. Here comes the other emplacement. Oh my god, that's real bad. Okay, that's 2 damage. That's all of its armor. All right, so the yellow is going to be the motive. The red will be the critical hit. Okay, that is a motive hit, and that is the worst critical hit you could possibly get. That is a crew killed. And so Just like in my other classic BattleTech mission, the Bulldog goes bye-bye the first round it's available. All right, here's the damage on the 12 Vegan Rangers and FedCom side. The Centurion took 1 pip, but it was a critical, dropped its weapon damage down a bit. Javelin took 1 pip of damage. Fleet took 1 pip of damage, and the Cicada took 2. It's out of armor. And of course, the Bulldog was blown up. I can't believe I rolled a crew killed on the first round. I was really excited to have that Bulldog in there. It's a pretty good unit in Alpha Strike. It's got decent armor and structure, does decent damage, and it's real cheap, but was not to be. I think Bulldogs and I just don't work out. Okay, I will also apologize a little bit if the audio gets a little bit weird sometimes when I'm rolling dice. It's because I switched the microphone to voice isolation because sometimes my kids are here or other noises are happening. My cat is yowling, whatever. So, and sometimes I change it there so it doesn't get all crazy noisy in the background. Okay, you don't care about any of that. Let's move on. I've cleaned up all the dice. We are in the end phase now. I'm going to check the strategy decision here on the back. So the Combine side on the Star Captain deck, actually, I thought it was going to go down here to most PV loss, but actually B is going to apply. There are any enemies with no armor, that would be the Cicada. So we're going to switch it up to card B, which I think is going to make them a little bit more aggressive. They are going to use the move last token. And so on the FedCom side, let's see on their side, if you lost fewer PV units this turn, which we did, the Bulldog is only 17, the SRM carrier is 26. So they're going to also switch over to the B. So they're going to have a move first. I really don't care. There's only 2 units, but the Centurion will go first, which is fine. Okay, and then on the Combine side, it's going to put a move last token on the unit with the most medium damage, which at this point is going to be the Demolisher. So that's going to be the last unit to move this round. Hopefully I remember that because I don't have 2 move last tokens. Okay, at this point, we're going to check any of our special rules or any of our objectives. Nothing is complete at this point. We have lost 1 unit, which stinks, and we're almost about to lose the Cicada. So that is counting toward our 50% of the units that could be destroyed. I'm kind of feeling like I'm not going to win this. It seems like this is maybe going to be a little bit too easy for the Combine side, but we'll see. We can definitely do some damage here in this round. And I think I can get that Maxim pretty darn close to the control tower. It's just going to be a matter of if I can get things near it to absorb the damage. But you know what? That Maxim's pretty quick. It could probably avoid some damage just by its speed, but we will see. I will go ahead and roll up initiative here. Let's see if we can go first this time. So the Combine side is going to get a -2 to their roll. So the green is me, red is them. They get a -2. Oh my God. Okay, well, that doesn't matter. They're still going to win. So we have to go first again. All right, I'm going to let my FedCom units go first, and the Javelin is up. And I get this lovely card. Can't use the first 2 columns because they require a move target. Going to the nearest, which is the Galleon right there. And we get this 18 inches from the target. Try to maintain that distance or get that distance away. That is definitely possible. We have a nice open map here. But as I go down the priorities, it wants to be able to attack the target. It wants to get cover and occupy the woods. And so I was thinking these woods over here, and I'll tilt the camera a bit. I'm not sure if you can see where I'm pointing, but these woods right here would be an ideal place. It could get over here, get cover against everything, and have line of sight to that. But I always struggle with, am I really supposed to prioritize getting 18 inches away, which I think that I am. That is the priority. I can get to 18 inches. I'm supposed to honor that. So the only place that I can think of, given it has 12 inches of movement, to accommodate that 18 inches would be right here next to the Centurion. That distance right there would be about 18 inches. I don't think that's a great spot. I really think in the woods there is better. I could use the golden rule, but when I started doing aces, I always felt like I overdid that. So I think I'm going to put it next to the Centurion and just go with it. All right, I went ahead and moved it over there. Again, I don't really think it's great, especially since that Galleon's going to move. Nothing has moved yet. So it has attack range now, but it's probably not going to. Okay, the Centurion is up now. It has the same armor as the Demolisher, has damage, so that's not going to apply. It only has the Demolisher and the Galleon within 24 inches and line of sight. So it wants to get the nearest target, which would be the Galleon again, and then it wants to have no line of sight to any enemies, which I guess I could kind of do by just moving it back here behind this level 2 or this, whatever you want to call it, 2-inch high hill. But again, I don't know, man. It's not really in the spirit of the mission here for this thing to just go hide. All right, that's where I put the Centurion. Let me know if you got a problem with that, but I feel like in the spirit of the mission, it just doesn't make sense to hide. The Demolisher was up first, which is really good for us. It wanted to get eyes on the Cicada, and it wanted to have line of sight to as many enemies as possible. This building muddles things a little bit. Actually, no. You know what? I think it can pretty much see everything on the map right now. So it doesn't have much movement, basically moved up into there. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good move for it and for us. It can use that big turret with the 2 cannons on it to fire at things, but we can shuffle off this way now because that's the last thing on the board that does a ton of damage. So that will allow us to sneak in this way. Hopefully, depending on what's going on here, we can start to make our move away from that thing. All right, movement is done. I just decided to go ahead and kind of finish things off. It was getting pretty tense as far as where I was going to move things. So I just figured I'd put my head down, do the movement, and then explain it to you. So most of the interesting stuff was on my side, but one that was kind of interesting in terms of the way I set this up was that the Panther wanted to attack, I believe it was the Javelin or the Centurion, one of the two. Anyway, it wanted to be able to get line of sight and attack those. It also wanted to get out of attack range from as many units as possible. So it had just enough movement to go behind that building there under the bridge and just peek out on the other side and protect itself from everything else. However, that was outside of the 14-inch leash I put on it, so it actually had to pull its way back in here and kind of go out in the open to attack them. But I thought, to me, that actually seems like a good move, because if it gets trapped over there, now it's going to be at long range from everything else, and that is not a quick unit, so it's going to take a while to get back into the fray. So I think I kind of like how that's working so far. All right, but the interesting stuff was me delaying until that J. Edgar went, because I didn't want to move the Maxim and have it attempt to crash into it, because we weren't getting away from the J. Edgar. It has 22 inches of movement. Nothing could get away from it. So I moved the Flea through the water and the trees to here. I kind of figured this is what it would pick in the end because it was so damaged. Unfortunately, it tripped. J, K, and L are the bad waypoints, and it tripped J, which was a minefield that did 1 damage and a motive hit, so -2 movement and -1 TMM for this turn. So that has no armor now, which factors into the J. Edgar's decision. Then the Cicada I moved this way, and I thought about taking it up here, but eventually I took it this way. Of course, that put it next to this waypoint, which was probably pretty stupid. That was the real bad one. That was another minefield, but that also dealt a critical hit. So it ended up with 2 critical hits because it had lost all its armor. So it went 1 internal, and it went a motive hit, a MP hit, and a fire control hit. So yeah, I'm doing a great job as the commander here. The VTOLs were not that interesting, but they mostly just wanted to get behind units, which they did. This one really doesn't matter. It can't attack. I think I'm not going to do the kamikaze thing with them because I'm not 100% sure on the rules if they can do it. And I feel like it's going to just be impossible for me to win if I do that, because they can crash into anything. And so I just thought, I think I'll just skip with those. I think there's enough vehicles here that they can try to do it. Luckily, with my Flea positioning, I was able to get just outside of 12 inches from the Galleon. I had a little bit of a scare because the Centurion over there was also 12.5 inches. I thought for a minute it would be able to charge it, but no luck. So it just tucked itself away here to get out of line of sight to everything except the Flea. Then the J. Edgar wanted the Flea. Of course, it had no problem being able to get it. I did space these out enough that no matter where it hit, if it detonates, it will not be able to hit both units. So I made sure to space them out that way. So there you go. The Dervish, I jumped up here into the water to get partial cover. I want something out there to attract attention from the Demolisher. I don't know if this is going to do it because the Centurion's closer, but I didn't have a lot of great options with the Dervish. And then the Commander here, Bullseye, just moved up in the Rifleman. I was trying to use it to bait. I don't even know what it will be able to attack now. I think only the VTOLs, because the J. Edgar I'm not going to attack. It's going to explode. Okay, sorry. Something fell on the table and knocked stuff everywhere. Okay, anyway, I was just saying that even if this misses the charge and it's not able to do the charge damage, it will still try to detonate. I think the way I'm going to play it is if it hits the charge, the detonation also hits. If it misses the charge, it will make a separate roll with the same modifier to see if when it detonates its explosives, do they hit? So kind of like it's swinging around here, and maybe it doesn't actually hit the mech, but it's able to be close enough that it actually hits with its explosion. That's kind of how I'm going to play it. But no matter what, this unit will be destroyed at the end of the round. Okay, I think I've talked through the movement enough. Hopefully that gives you a good summary. Let's do some combat. I'm going to go first. I don't think there's a whole lot of great stuff I can do here. We may just end up going after these emplacements because now that I'm thinking about it, the way I set this mission up, if I dump an infantry off here to fight another infantry, it's going to take like 3 rounds for them to kill each other. So I'm never really going to be able to take over this thing in a way that would actually help. I mean, I get a lot of points for it. It's like 450 SP, I think I wrote out, if I capture this during the mission. That is useful, but I might almost have to attack these buildings with another unit to try to take these out before the infantry get in there. I don't know. I'll think about it. For now, I'm not really going to get into that. I'm going to see if I can start taking some of these other vehicles and mechs out. All right, the Javelin is up first. We know this is an ace pilot in here, as we saw in the previous round. It wants the most armor loss, which would technically be the Warrior, way off in the distance there. But I'm going to override it because that just doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to attack that target. It can't do anything. So it has the Demolisher and the Panther. The tiebreaker is most armor, strangely enough, on the yellow list. So it's going to go after the Demolisher. Just going to need 7s to hit. It has a lot of armor, but you got to start somewhere. This thing rolled a 12 the last time. 7s are no problem. 2 damage from medium range. Okay. We got a 12 and a 2 from this unit. We love it. Okay, 1 damage to the Demolisher. That's going to be a motive hit. That's nothing. All right, the Centurion's going to do the exact same thing. Also has the yellow list. We got Marshal Mira Tran in here. She was a complete flop last round, as she's been so far in this operation. It also took a weapon hit last round, so it only does 2 damage at medium range. So here we go. Needs 7s. Wow, she is awful. All right, Bullseye and the Rifleman thought he might only be able to attack one of the VTOLs, but upon closer examination, he's got a line straight through the trees, straight through these buildings on that galleon in there trying to hide. Can we focus on it? Can we do it? Okay, let's just go this way. There we go. There's a galleon. So he's going to try to attack that. Does 3 damage from medium range. Galleon thought it was safe, but it was not. All right, Bullseye, can you pound this thing to dust? This is going to be an 8. Here we go. Bullseye, that looks pretty darn good. Okay, it's only 2, but that's still pretty good. All right, the Galleon only has 2 armor. Wish we could have gotten 1 more to get into structure there, but we do get a motive hit. It is a tracked vehicle, so no bonus to this. That's a 9. That'll do it. So that's going to be a -2 movement, -1 TMM for the next round, if it survives. The Dervish is up next. Really only has 1 option other than the red VTOL, which is going to be too high to hit here. Just going for the Demolisher. It's going to be 9s to hit. It's going to overheat, though, because it's sitting in water. So why not? It'll overheat by 1, and then that will just go away. So it's going to be 9s. It's going to do 3 damage from medium range. All right, let's do this Dervish pilot. Come on, hit something. Or hit nothing. The Maxim zooming around here, looking for a target. Wasn't sure what to attack, but since Bullseye was able to hit that Galleon pretty hard, it's going to go for that. Does 2 damage from medium range. Also going to be 8s to try to hit this thing. So it'd be really amazing if it could take this thing out. It's going to take a good roll, but then the little guys could shoot at something else. Here we go, 8s. Just got 1, but that's going to be a critical and a motive hit. So green's going to be the motive, blue's going to be the critical. Come on, 11s. All right, we got a 5 on the critical, a 4 on the motive, so the motive does nothing. The 5 on the critical hit that's a fire control hit, but we're hoping to take this thing out, so that's not really going to matter. All right, I was going to use the Cicada to try to finish off the Galleon, but I forgot it took a fire control hit during the movement phase, so yeah, can't do that. So we're going to have to rely on the Flea to hit. Well, not that I can't do it, but it's going to be a real high number. So the Flea is going to try to do it. Come on, Flea. You can do this. Also going to be an 8 to hit. This is going to be probably your dying breath here, so please do something in this mission. 8 coming in. Come on, Flea. Oh, yes, we did it. All right, the Galleon is gone. I debated whether I wanted to take that out, but I think it was a good idea just because that has the most movement left, and it could definitely charge something, but now it's dead. All right, now the Cicada can take 1 quick little shot over here at the Panther. It was going to be a 7, but now it's going to be a 9 because of that fire control hit. Hey, that Cicada pilot's really good. All right, 1 damage to the Panther. All right, that's the extent of what we were able to do. The Galleon's gone, the Demolisher took 1 pip, and the Panther took 1 pip. I don't know why I start on the left sometimes and the right sometimes. Not great. Marshal Mira Tran is really blowing it here. She's done absolutely nothing. That Centurion's a good mech, and it is really bombing right now. So I'm feeling okay. I think we can probably dance around the Demolisher in the next rounds to keep it at bay, but those emplacements are starting to be a little bit scary. All right, the Demolisher's up first. It can smell the incompetence, so it's going for the better of the two with the Javelin over there. It wanted the most armor loss, which these two are tied, and then it wanted the lowest structure, which is the Javelin. So these are going to be 8s to hit. Can have 4 chances to hit those, and the Javelin doesn't have too much armor and structure. Here we go. 4 dice coming in. Needs 8s. That doesn't look too bad. Let's see what that other one was. Okay, just 1 hits. Just the black dice are going to hit. That is a good escape for us on this one. All right, Panther's up next. It wants a unit attacked by an ally this turn. Also going for that Javelin. I got to double check the trees there, but it's going to try to take this Javelin out. It does 2 damage from medium range. Unfortunately, those trees are not in the way, so these are just going to be 8s. If it gets both, the Javelin's gone. Misses both. Ooh, just barely, but misses both of them. All right, the Galleon wants least armor, lowest TMM. So these 2 units have no armor. By the way, the Cicada's in force withdrawal. I forgot. It lost enough structure that it's going to put it into a crippled state, so it will have to start moving off the board. In any case, it wants the flee because it has a lower TMM this round. You know, the J. Edgar is going to try to charge it, so I'm inclined to say, well, maybe I should just attack the Cicada, but it's not a guarantee this J. Edgar is going to hit, so I think I'll just let it attack the flee. All right, just continuing the trend. It's an 8 to hit, just does 1 damage from medium range. Misses again, another 7 on those red dice. All right, the moment we've been waiting for, the J. Edgar is going to attempt to charge the flee. I didn't even look at the combat card because it declared this in the movement phase. Just going to need a 7 thanks to that minefield. That's looking like not the smartest move. I should have gone through those buildings. All right, just going to need a 7 to hit. Here we go. This is going to do big time damage if it hits. It hits. All right, that's going to be 2 damage from the charge. The way this works is it gets a 1 for its size, and it gets its TMM divided by 2, rounded down, which is also 1. It has a 3 TMM, so you divide and round down. That's 2 damage. Then it's also going to detonate and do an additional 2 damage, so the flee is bye-bye. But so is the J. Edgar. But I can't just let it end like that. I got to get my inner child out. Ram him! Ram him! No! Stop! Stop! There, that's better. All right, and finally, the red warrior here is going to attack the Cicada from behind. This is going to be in short range. It's going to be a 7 to hit, going to do potentially 2 damage. It gets 1 of them. That's going to be a critical hit on the Cicada. 1 more internal pip left, and it gets a weapon hit.
Last up, we've got the all-important emplacements. They both want, on this card, this is Commander Card B, they want the most internal structure followed by the lowest TMM. That's going to be Bullseye and the Rifleman. This is going to hurt. These are going to be 7s to hit. They both do 2 damage each. So here's the first one. That is, luckily, just 1 pip. And here's the second one. And just 1 pip. Okay, only took 2. I thought it was going to be worse than that. All right, there's the damage on our side. Fleet is dead, blown up by a kamikaze J. Edgar. Complete reckless abandon, blows it up. Cicada's in force withdrawal, took a lot of damage. Only 1 pip left. It's probably going to get torched. I got to remember that I'm not using the Aces campaign, and I don't remember what happens here. I think these are truly destroyed because they lost all their internal structure. I probably should have thought about this a little more. Anyway, Javelin's got all its armor stripped, and the Rifleman just took 2 pips. So, I don't know. These emplacements are more of a pain than I thought they would be. I mean, they technically only have a couple units left that can really do damage, but I don't know. It's going to be a race to see if we can take them all out before they take out 50% of us. All right, everything is all cleaned up. We're in the end phase now. I'm going to check the strategy decisions for the commander cards. This is on the Combine side. I think we're going to go to C here. If you lost more point value of units this turn, which is true because the Flea is about 19 points, I think, and the J. Edgar was 26 or something. Sorry, 23. So yeah, it's going to switch over to C. I also think I didn't pay attention to the move last. Yeah, I let the Demolisher go first. Oh, well, who cares? Whatever. That would have definitely changed some things, though, because that Demolisher could have gotten a good shot on something. And on our side, I don't think anything's going to change here.
think it's just going to say exactly where it is on card B. All right, well, I made a goof there on the Demolisher. I apologize for that. I try to remember everything, but, you know, you screw some things up sometimes. Okay, let's roll up initiative. So I forgot to update the track, but they won initiative again last time, so they're going to have another -2. Here we go. All right, we win it this time. 8-1. We win. So they have to go first this time. Let me pay attention to any commander card instructions. Nope, theirs is about withdrawing, and we do have one that's moved first, and the Centurion should actually go first. Okay, I will start moving things. All right, first step done here. Nothing too incredibly exciting. Oops, sorry, let me fix the initiative tracker. Maybe I'll remember it for once. The Panther wanted to get 24 inches away from the Centurion, so all it could really do was back up. And then the Centurion and the Javelin just continued their little triangle here where they just moved to the same 3 places. The Centurion wanted to get cover from the Demolisher, so it moved over there. And the Javelin wanted to be able to attack the Demolisher and occupy the woods, so it went there. I couldn't go here, if you're wondering, because it needed to have attack range to a moved target. And if I moved it here, it was getting a little iffy if it could attack the Panther, which is the only thing that moved. So I just put it in there. I don't know. Sometimes this drives me crazy with the aces is they just, on boards like this, where the woods are sparse, they just kind of move around to the same couple places. It's hard to get them to like go after the enemy. They just want to hang back and sit and cover, which I get it. It makes sense, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, whatever. Okay, I'll keep moving. Oh, and I did decide, technically the Demolisher should have gone first, but since I screwed it up the last round, I'm just going to let it go last this time. All right, next step done, the desert helicopter. Just wanted to get out of line of sight of everything, so I just moved it behind the building here. It's only at level 2 now, so it just went there. Nothing could see it at the time. The Maxim, I decided to loop it back behind here because these things are going to attack it at the end of the round, so I hid it behind here so they can't get it, and it still has line of sight to the Panther. And then the Dervish, I just kind of moved out. I got to be careful. I don't want it to get too close to the Demolisher where it could just come up and get it in short range. But I do want it to be able to attack it. I might rethink that one here in a minute. All right, there's the final movement. This helicopter wanted to get out of as many lines of sight as possible, basically only have line of sight to the Cicada. That was the best I could do. It had the Rifleman there. If it went there, it would have the Rifleman plus the Centurion and the Maxims back there. So this was pretty much the only place I could get it, which actually worked pretty well for me because then I can move the Rifleman up and we'll see if it can maybe take this thing out. I kind of wish I had flak ammunition, but it also has a good shot at the Demolisher, which just moves straight up to go after the Centurion. So Marshal Tran is in trouble there. I did move the Dervish back against this building. I want to prevent these emplacements from getting it, but it also, I think, has a shot at the Demolisher. So we've got quite a few things with a decent shot at the Demolisher. And I think that's it. So I think we're ready to get into combat. This should be an interesting round. They have to go first. They only have 3 units that can attack except for the emplacements.
Well, the Demolisher is right here, right in front of Marshal Tran. Easy shot, but it's not going to take it. It wanted to go out 24 inches, and it's looking for the destroy objective, so the Demolisher will be firing on Bullseye and the Rifleman instead. Oops, maybe I shouldn't have moved it there.
Okay, not a good situation. Just needs 7s. 4 pairs of dice coming in. Here we go. Ooh, actually did real bad. Only hit one of them. This Demolisher stinks, but that's good for me.
The Panther is up next. I think I got a little too greedy trying to move up with a chance to take out that VTOL. It's going for the Rifleman too. We need to prevent them from killing this thing because that's their objective.
All right, these are 7s as well. Does 2 from medium range. This could get ugly. Yep, gonna get real ugly. That's 2, and that's a critical hit, and that's all of its armor. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this game. All right, well, on that note, the red warrior can only attack the Cicada in the woods there. So this is going to be a 9 because of all the cover. 1 pip. Misses. All right, the emplacements are up. They want the lowest starting armor. That's going to be the Cicada. I'm going to have this far one go first because that's at medium range. So these are going to be 9s as well. Just needs 1 to kill this thing. And it got it. All right, Cicada's gone. So this one is going to go after the Javelin. I think they may have won at this point. I think they've taken out 50% of our forces. I'll have to double check. Maybe the infantry keep us safe. Anyway, it's going to go for the javelin over there, lowest starting armor. And these are also going to be 9, same cover basically. And it misses both. All right, Marshal Tran's going to shoot at the Demolisher. Can you hit from close range? It's a 5. Can you hit? It's a 5, okay? And you only do 1 point of damage from short range. Come on. All right, got it. Let's see if there's a motive hit. Nope. All right, Javelin's going to do the same thing. 2 pips coming in. 5, that's all we need. You got to be kidding me. Oh, boy, did I get lucky there. All right, 2 pips. Let's roll up another motive. Let's try the pink dice this time. The green dice are no good. Yeah, that's like half of its movement, which isn't much on the Demolisher. All right, the Cicada is pretty useless here with the fire control hit. It just did 1 pip of damage to that emplacement. Boring. Okay, the Dervish is up. It's going for the Demolisher. It's going to overheat by 1. It needs 7s. It will do 3 potential damage here. Come on, Dervish, roll some 7s. Get a critical hit here. Or completely miss everything. I think this mission's over. All right, my rolling's so bad. Let's just continue the parade of stupidity. The commander is going to fire at this VTOL just because it's in short range. This might be the only opportunity to take this thing out. It's going to be 7s to hit. Does 3 damage at short range, and then it's dead. And there you go. My rolling is putrid. All right, last thing, that Maxim's going to attack the Panther. It doesn't matter. We lost the mission. They've taken out 5 out of our 9 units, so that's going to do it. But they will make one last attempt to take down that Panther. They can't do it, but they can do 2 damage. Oh, you never know. I could roll double 12s. Yeah, right. Like that could ever happen. Oh, wait, it already did. Gonna need 7s. Does 2 damage from medium range. Okay, got 2. Yay. What an absolute nightmare. We lost the Cicada, which was expected, but we also lost the Rifleman, which was totally unexpected. And yeah, wow. Headshot from the Panther, PPC, right to the cockpit. Bye-bye, Commander Bullseye. You're dead. And that's not Mitch Nelson, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that, but it's not the actual commander of the 12th Vegan Ranger Delta Regiment. This is just the commander for this battle. Yeah, luckily. But this mission's over. We're going to go into force withdrawal. We're going to have to run away. They've achieved both objectives. They killed the commander and they eliminated 50% of our force. So they're going to get a ton of points. And we're going to have to lick our wounds and figure out how to capture this base once and for all. Or maybe do something else to gain control of this operation again. What a joke, man. We came to bail out an incompetent force and we ourselves became incompetent. All right, that's going to do it as far as the objectives go. They accomplished both the primary and the secondary, so they're going to get a lot of points. We accomplished absolutely nothing. We could attempt to get this control tower. Maxim did scan this. I didn't mention that during the combat phase. Unfortunately, that's B. That is not the control tower. So, wow, this has just gone from bad to worse. There is nothing good happening here. We are going to run away. The Kurita forces are going to be able to continue hunting us to see if they can take us out before we're able to get off the map. We have to exit, obviously, through this home edge where we entered. And yeah, we'll do the movement. We will see. I think everything on my side is going to be sprinting and running for its life. Look at that. That's my initiative roll. I get a -2 for winning last time and a -2 because our commander's dead. So even though they rolled a 3, they still win. All right, there's the movement. The 2 cowards from the FedCom RCT, they're gone. They ran away off the map. The Centurion barely made it off the map, but it had just enough to get out of there. The Dervish just jumped back to build a TMM, and the Maxim sprinted down to here. The Panther didn't really want to do that much, just move forward a little bit to go after the Centurion, who of course moved. And then the Bulldog tried to do the same, just go toward the Centurion. So just going to have a couple shots here to end things. We have to go first. I forgot to mark the Dervish for overheating, by the way. Sorry, there was a lot going on there. Bad for our side. You got the infantry up here. They're just having some beers together, just having a good time celebrating, watching these guys run away. They had to do nothing in this mission, so good for them. All right, I guess I'll just have the Dervish attack the Demolisher. I mean, whatever. So it's going to have a 6, 7, 8. It's going to be 10s to hit. 2 damage from medium range. Ooh, actually got one. That's just going to strip it of its armor. Not much else going on there. And the Maxim is the only other thing we can fire with, and it's going to attack this warrior that's right behind it. It's going to use its turret, which is a 2 at short range. So it's just going to need 8s to hit this. Gets nothing. All right. So no more damage for us. Maybe should have gone for the Panther because that was guaranteed internal if we hit anything. Oh, well, it is what it is. We're just going to let the warrior go now. The warrior needs 7s on the Maxim here. Getting a rear shot. Whoops. Well, that rolled a snake eyes, so that one doesn't count. Does get the 1 there. 1 damage to the Maxim. This is the first damage the Maxim has taken. Going to get a motive hit with a +1. Nothing. Okay, so the Maxim's going to survive with just a little bit of armor damage. Panther is going to go after the Dervish. That's going to be an 11. Nothing. Okay, the Bulldog has no option but to attack the Dervish. Going to need 9s. And it actually got 2 of them. Okay, so the Dervish takes 2 damage. Dervish hasn't been touched though, so it's okay. And that's going to be it. So literally every unit on our side was damaged except for the infantry, which are inside of the Maxim. That's what they did. What did we do? We got 1 damage on the Demolisher. So that's where it ended up. But that's it. Thought we were okay when we got here. By the way, these emplacements still have to go. I guess I should fire with them as well. All right, these emplacements want the Maxim, so both of them are going to attack it. They're going to be 9s to hit. Oh, wow. Got 1. Motive hit on the Maxim. That's nothing. So that took 1 pip. Here's the second one. This Maxim may not make it out alive. All right, the black is the motive. The red is the critical. Okay, that's nothing for that. I think a 5, we did this before. That was a fire control hit on the Maxim. That won't technically matter. It did count as a critical hit, but it's not going to prevent it from getting off the map here. Okay, so I spoke too soon. There's the Maxim. Ended up getting a critical hit, so that's going to make it cost more to repair. Oh my goodness, what a disaster. Colossal failure from the 12th Vegan Rangers, who are just trying to bail out the unit that's supposed to be helping them, the 1st FedCom RCT. They took off. They don't care. And we're left to deal with the garbage at the end. But we will be able to sprint off of here with both of these units, escape with our lives for some people. Bullseye, unfortunately, does not get to escape with his life. That's it. I kind of thought at the beginning that maybe I had a little bit too much on the Combine side. I think that did come to pass. Of course, we rolled horribly, and I made a terrible move putting that rifleman here. I should have probably just put it right here into the woods. I don't know what I was thinking. That was a pretty dumb move, but it was pretty epic to see that Panther pop it with a PPC right to the head. So there you go. I gave you that. We got to see a kamikaze attack from the J. Edgar. That was pretty cool. I did like that stuff. I think overall the mission was pretty cool. This would have been too difficult to actually get now that I thought it through during the play. I probably just wouldn't have these infantry here. It would just be scan it, get the infantry inside. It probably would have been hard enough just to get that Maxim 2 there, I think. In any case, I probably had a little bit too much on this side with the traps and everything going on. I got unlucky in every way. I hit the 2 waypoints that were the worst. I rolled awfully with everything. It just wasn't my day. So we're going to have to run away. I think I'd tweak this mission just slightly. Like I said, no infantry in here maybe. Or maybe have the infantry in the front. When you scan the waypoints, the infantry come out. They're a little bit easier to deal with when they're out in the open. And then you can send the infantry in to capture that. That might be a better way to do it. These emplacements, I might want to do medium emplacements, not heavy, because I think these did way too much damage for what they were. But overall, I like the mission. I would probably do this again, like I said, just with a couple tweaks. I'm not going to do it again for the second mission. I'll come up with something else. Let me know what you thought. If you thought it was a good mission, this is my first try at a custom Aces campaign mission. I liked it. It was real hard. To be honest with you, it's not going quite like the story does in the lore, but it's close enough in terms of things not going nearly as well as they should have. So I think we're off to an interesting start. I'll have to see where I want to take it from here. I did not expect this mission to end after basically 3 rounds, 3.5, we'll call it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. I will make a video where I just go through the cleanup in terms of repairing and all that stuff, just for people who are interested in how it works for the Chaos campaign. Let me know your thoughts and comments. As always, thank you for watching.